Unfortunately, family members are the most common perpetrators of abuse, meaning that they are the ones who are most likely to abuse or take advantage of an older person. And that's really because they have access to that person, they know that person, they may know that person's personal information and have easier access to online financial accounts and things like that. So we just need to be vigilant that if there are family members who have a close relationship with an older adult and we see these warning signs of abuse, that we're asking questions and just being a little bit more aware.
The K-State Research and Extension publication, Elder Abuse and Neglect, What You Should Know, describes the 6 common categories of elder abuse, the warning signs of abuse, who's at risk for abuse, who's most likely to be an abuser, and how elder abuse can be prevented. Kansas State University Assistant Professor and K-State Research and Extension Adult Development and Aging Specialist Erin Yelland says that no one is immune to elder abuse. It can happen to anyone, at any time, and anywhere. On today's Sound Living, reducing the risk of elder abuse. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. According to Yelland, elder abuse is occurring at a much higher rate than what's being reported. Erin, this is kind of one of those sad realities. Elder abuse, it occurs probably even more often than people realize.
You're absolutely correct. Elder abuse is so much more prevalent than what we realize. And while some statistics show that 10% of adults over the age of 60 will become victims of elder abuse, we can actually guess that those numbers are much higher because of the rates of underreporting, people being scared to report, people maybe not having the services and access to be able to report elder abuse and neglect. So yes, it is so much more common, and unfortunately, it's becoming even more common as we gain access to bank accounts and we're able to spoof people and scam people via the internet and all these sorts of things. So yes, we need to be really talking about this and watching out.
We often think of just physical abuse, but there are many types of abuse and neglect.
Yeah, so the most common form of elder abuse is financial abuse. That's when people will take advantage of an older person and gain some sort of financial asset, whether that could be stealing money directly. You know, if an older person has physical cash in their home, it could be that. But it could also be calling and doing a scam and getting that person to wire you money or send you gift cards and these sorts of things. This is the type of stuff that we're hearing a lot more about on the news nowadays.
What can older adults do to protect themselves, especially financially?
You really just need to be cognizant of who you're talking to, who's asking you for money, and really be critical every time someone's asking you personal questions or is asking you to send gift cards or send money or give you an account number or social security number. You really just need to be hypervigilant and be aware. So one thing that I do with my grandmother, and she's almost 90 years old, is we're constantly talking about this. Anytime someone calls and she gets a random phone call, she is constantly confused on what to do. And my number one rule of thumb with her is if she's not sure, just hang up the phone. Because if it's really important, they're going to call back, they'll leave a message, this sort of thing. But oftentimes these folks will leave threatening messages as well, such as if you don't call us back or if you don't send us this money, you know, we're going to turn you into the IRS or we're going to press charges against you and this sort of thing. So first of all, no one of legitimate authority will ever threaten you like that. So just be constantly aware of what's going on out there. Make sure that you're educating that person and talking to that person and really making sure that they're aware, that they're educated, and that you're educated on it as well.
And just because they use your name doesn't mean they know you.
Exactly. It's so easy to find someone's name nowadays. A simple Google search on the internet, if you type in someone's address that you're driving by and it seems like an older adult might live there, you can Google search that and perhaps find out who's living there, who their family members are. There's so much information out there available on the internet or in the phone book. It just doesn't matter what type of information they're giving you. You still need to be hypervigilant. For example, my grandmother got a phone call claiming to be my cousin, and the conversation was very general. It was, Grandma Dorothy, I need money, I got in trouble, I don't want anyone else to know. Well, her first red flag should have been that no one ever calls her Grandma Dorothy. So if you ever hear this type of language, just be aware of who might be talking to you on the other end of the phone.
And this is still primarily done by phone, but there's also some door-to-door scams as well?
Absolutely. So we see a lot of older adults still being targeted with traditional methods. So over the phone, for example, we know that this generation, and the Department of Justice says it as well, that this generation is more trusting than younger generations. So we still see them being targeted by those traditional methods via phone call and then also door to door. For example, if there's some sort of natural disaster or hail damage or something like that, we see a lot of these door-to-door folks coming around saying, we're going to replace your roof at a significantly cheaper cost, but we need this money up front. And of course, they don't come back and ever complete the work. These types of things are common after natural disasters or some sort of weather event. But we also see folks coming door to door saying, we're with this charity, or we're with this organization, or, all sorts of things. There's constantly new stuff coming up, which is the reason why we need to be educating ourselves constantly on what these new scams are.
I know it's hard for older people to do, but sometimes you just have to hang up the phone.
Yes. And like I said, I tell my grandmother this a lot, and it's so difficult because you don't want to be rude. And I certainly understand that feeling, but you need to protect yourself. And like I said, if it really is a legitimate person calling you and trying to contact you, they're going to understand that you were just being vigilant. You thought maybe it was a scam and you weren't so sure, so you were just protecting yourself. People who are from those legitimate agencies and organizations are going to understand that, and they're going to get in touch with you in other ways if they really need to talk with you.
This also occurs within family members. What can you do to protect your financial assets from other family members who may be taking advantage?
So, unfortunately, family members are the most common perpetrators of abuse, meaning that they are the ones who are most likely to abuse or take advantage of an older person. And this is really one of the saddest realities of elder abuse in general. And this spans across all forms of abuse, ranging from financial to physical and even sexual abuse as well. And that's really because they have access to that person, they know that person, they might know that person's personal information and have easier access to online financial accounts and things like that. So we just need to be vigilant that if there are family members who have a close relationship with an older adult and we see these warning signs of abuse, that we're asking questions and just being a little bit more aware. Now, of course, we really don't want to run the risk of accusing people when something really isn't going on, but the reality is family members are the most common perpetrators. So some things that you can do as an older adult to protect yourself are just making sure that you're keeping a very close eye on your accounts. For instance, having a close relationship with the person at your bank can be really meaningful and important because they are the ones who can really be monitoring your accounts and making sure that nothing fishy is going on. Another thing that you should always be doing is checking your credit report. And there's 3 credit reporting agencies, and you're allowed to pull your credit report once per year for free from each credit reporting agency. We recommend doing that every 4 months. There's actually a really neat K-State Research and Extension program going on right now called Check Your Credit, and they will send you text messages automatically reminding you to check your credit report throughout the year. So then you're able to see, have any new accounts been opened? Is there more debt in my name than what I'm aware of? And these sorts of things. But really just being mindful and staying on top of your accounts, on top of your credit report, and making sure that you're just not being taken advantage of can be really powerful in protecting yourself against financial abuse.
There's also physical, emotional, psychological, abandonment, financial exploitation. Talk a little bit more about maybe just the personal problems that can occur.
So there's a whole wide variety of abuse that older adults can be victims of. A lot of times we'll see older adults who are more dependent, such as those with dementia or extremely limited physical mobility, are more likely to become victims of physical abuse. And a lot of this is really related to caregiver stress and burnout. And we need to remember that our caregivers have such a demanding job put upon them. And oftentimes caregiving isn't their only job. They could be working full time, also caring for their own children and then caring for their grandparents or caring for their parents as well. So it can become really challenging on those caregivers. And we need to make sure that caregivers are taking care of their own mental health and getting the breaks that they need, which can be a lot harder to actually accomplish than what many people realize. So it's really important that family members are trying to help spread the load, that we're also inviting in friends or maybe friends from church or other group organizations to help, just give someone even a couple hours reprieve. So we need to be just really vigilant about caregiver stress and burnout, because oftentimes we're seeing that can be the impetus for whether that's physical or emotional or psychological abuse.
I think one of the things I read about was the fact that older people should try to avoid being socially isolated, and that kind of comes into play here because people then have a chance to see you often. They can kind of judge how you react and things like that.
Yeah, so social isolation is actually a very large risk factor for elder abuse and all types of elder abuse. So if an older person is particularly dependent on a single person or a small group of people, that really limits their social capacity and their social network in general. So that person has more close relationships with people who could in turn take advantage of them, and they have less people in their network to really reach out to if they are in a bad situation or if they need help. So it's really important that if you're an older adult yourself, or if you have an older adult in your family, that you're encouraging that person to maintain their social networks, to be active in the community, and to really utilize those community-based resources, because that gives them sort of more protection, more connection, but also just more social connectedness. And we know that that is incredibly beneficial for your overall quality of life.
If you do suspect elder abuse, though, what are the steps and how can you do this to where maybe it's more of an anonymous type thing?
Yeah, and there are ways to absolutely report elder abuse anonymously. But the first thing that I'll say is if you ever suspect that someone is in imminent danger or imminent harm, you should immediately call 911. And if you were wrong, for instance, and if that person really wasn't in danger, 911 and those first responders are never going to hold it against you for reporting. The thing that we always want to promote is reporting, even if you're unsure. And we say this across the lifespan with abuse, whether we're talking about children or older adults. No matter what, if you suspect something's going on, it's best to report it. In Kansas, if you suspect that elder abuse is happening within a long-term care facility or some sort of institutionalized setting, like a hospital as well, then you have to report to a different agency. And that's through the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services. And you can get on their website and find some more information there. If you suspect that abuse is occurring in a home and not in a long-term care facility or a hospital, for instance, then you're going to contact the Kansas Department for Children and Families with their Adult Protective Services branch. But in general, if you have questions, you can contact the non-emergency line of your local police or sheriff's department and get information from them as well.
This is something we hope the people never have to do, but it's good to have the knowledge, it's good to have the information, and actually K-State Research and Extension has a publication that addresses a lot of this.
Yes, we do. So K-State Research and Extension offers a publication called Elder Abuse and Neglect, What You Should Know, and it goes over what is abuse and what are the definitions, what are the signs, who are the most common perpetrators, what makes you more at risk to become a victim of elder abuse, what to do if you suspect someone is being abused. So you should definitely reach out to your local K-State Research and Extension office and ask for that information. And of course, you can find it online as well. And we also have a recorded Extension Ed Talk that is produced by Next Tech up in Northwest Kansas that's on YouTube on elder abuse and neglect as well. So you can get on YouTube and watch that video for more information.
That's K-State Research and Extension Adult Development and Aging Specialist Erin Yelland. The publication, Elder Abuse and Neglect, What You Should Know, is available online and through local county and district extension offices. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.